I would assume that A-Rod may have known where Minnesota was, but it couldn't have been his dream to own the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wrong sport, wrong city. However, I love Minnesota. It's an amazing opportunity, and he had a chance to buy a team at $1.5 billion. He had a partner named Marc Lore. He had a deal with the current owner of the Timberwolves named Glenn Taylor, and it was going to be one of those step transactions that everybody hates because they're impossible, where you pay a little bit now, and then a little bit later, and then a little bit later, and then eventually you go over the top. It's like taking the roller coaster up, 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 and then right as it's going down, you take control. Except the roller coaster owner, in this case, Glenn Taylor, the owner of the Timberwolves, didn't want to sell the team to A-Rod or Marc Lore anymore, so claimed they'd violated the transaction, the deal, the contract. It went to arbitration. Yesterday, the arbitrators ruled, and the winner is A-Rod. Alex Rodriguez is now going to head toward approval from the National Basketball Association, where he will get the necessary votes, 3/4 out of the owners. Glenn Taylor is going to vote against it, by the way, but it doesn't matter. One vote against does not a denial make. And then A-Rod is going to get what he wanted. Now, Marc Lore is his partner. Marc Lore is going to be the governor. Keep in mind, the money in this transaction is from Marc Lore. It's from Mayor Bloomberg. A-Rod is the face, the very well sculpted, beautiful face, the player turned owner. I'd like you to think Derek Jeter. Remember that A-Rod and Jeter, mortal enemies, no matter that they sit next to each other on the Fox broadcast. Believe me, there is no love. There's no like. There's no nothing. There's just competition. Derek Jeter got himself into ownership with Bruce Sherman and the Marlins, and it was an unmitigated disaster. Jeter got the $25 million back that he put into the team through salary for 5 years, was unceremoniously dumped finally by a smart executive council member named Bruce Sherman. And Jeter then went on to decide that I'm better off doing commercials and some pre and post game because it turns out I can't run a team. A-Rod is going to do this way smarter. Number one, A-Rod is buying into a team at $1.5 billion that's already worth potentially double that. Jeter bought into a team at a valuation that was so inflated artificially, and the team 7 years later is still not worth what he had his owner, Bruce Sherman, pay for it. So A-Rod wins in the finance game. The Marlins lose money year after year, and the team is not worth as much. The T-Wolves make money operationally, and the team is worth more. Therefore, better deal. The other way A-Rod is quite a bit smarter is you're not going to see him named the CEO or the president. He is not going to pretend to run the team because he wants to be an owner. What you will see is him front and center doing owner-like stuff. You will see him sitting courtside at Timberwolves games. You will see him on the road. You will see him as the alternate governor at owners' meetings, rubbing elbows with the very people he's wanted to rub elbows with from the minute he put on spikes and stirrups. I'm talking baseball stuff. Come on. This isn't billions. It's a very exciting moment in their lives. And there's BO, and I don't mean that kind, and there's AO in everyone's life who gets to this point. There's before you're an owner and after you're an owner. A-Rod and Marc Lore released a statement right after the arbitrators ruled in their favor. We are extremely pleased with today's decision because we're rich. We look forward to working with the NBA to complete the approval process, close this transaction. Brilliant. They don't want to assume that they have the votes, which they do. They don't want to jump ahead of themselves, get ahead of themselves, get over their skis, Eddie the Eagle style. This statement is very well crafted so far. Close this transaction so that we can turn our attention to winning championships in Minnesota for our incredible fans and the Twin Cities community. Amen, brother. That is perfect. It's our second perfect statement of the show. That does not happen very often. If you are A-Rod and Marc Lore, you've taught yourself and you've learned from other people you've spoken to is that you never get ahead of the approval process. And you always make it about the fans. You don't mention the fact that the valuation is 1.5 billion and the team is now worth 2.5 to 3. You don't mention the fact that you crushed Glenn Taylor because you can't stand the guy and you were trying to run that octogenarian out of town. You don't do a victory lap saying, I told you so. You don't ever do that in the face of the arbitrators by in any way saying or impugning what they did or what an easy job it was, even though it may have been. The pitch was perfect. 85 down the middle, and A-Rod took it. Glenn Taylor had to release a statement too. We were disappointed by this 2-1 decision from the panel. Now, I want to stop you there. When you're the loser of something, now in a criminal trial, it has to be unanimous, so it doesn't really work well. If you are acquitted in a criminal trial, you could come out and say, hey, listen, it was 6-1 in my favor, 6-3 in my favor. All that you can be 8-1 against in your GTG because it has to be unanimous. In an arbitration where there's 3 panelists, 2-1 wins. And the funny part is the reason why Glenn Taylor put 2-1 in the statement is he wanted us to think, hey, I got to choose an arbitrator and that guy voted for me. A-Rod got to choose an arbitrator and that one voted for A-Rod. The neutral one voted for A-Rod. At least my guy didn't vote for A-Rod. Doesn't that sound sort of tiny to have to point out that it was a 2-1 decision from the panel? When the truth is that anyone reading that statement actually doesn't care whether it was 3-0 or 2-1 because a loss is a loss. Hey, we only lost by 1. We could have been swept. Guess what? You lost.